as you mentioned, we're slightly insulated from a price perspective because of our forward price fixing with EDF. Therefore, we've not seen the impacts in terms of pricing. But what we're very aware of is that as well as the pricings have gone up because there's less supply in Europe and less supply in the UK. So that's resulting in the European Union asking its countries to start reducing demand. So there's a sort of mandatory, you must reduce demand by 5% this winter, and voluntarily we'd like countries to start reducing by more than 10%. So we're aware of that, and we're aware that what that means is that actually they might have to start cutting people off. Now, obviously for us, we think if there's anything we can do to support in terms of that energy security for Europe, then we should be doing it. And the release this week was all about how we're going to do that. Now, I wouldn't say this is a new thing. We've had this contractual option for over 10 years, where we can actually support. Okay. So it's been in place for a long time. It's more likely to be used now because of the security issue in Europe.
Okay, so what does it effectively mean for us when we go to use the kettle, watch the TV at home? Are we going to notice any difference because Guernsey Electricity is, working to reduce its take from the European grid?
No, so it's probably worth reminding everyone that in the winter we have to generate on Ireland anyway. In the summer we import all of our electricity, but in winter we have to sort of top it up using the power station. So we're already running the power station. So what we're trying to do is make sure we run it in a better way whereby we can offset some of the stuff that we bring in, some of the electricity we'd import, to allow that to be used in Europe. But from a consumer perspective in Guernsey, there'll be no difference in terms of turning the kettle on or turning the lights on. There may be a concern though that, and I think we've said in the past, it's more expensive to generate on Ireland than to import electricity. But of course we're being fully compensated for doing it, and at times probably we'll be in a better financial position for doing it than actually importing anyway. So it's the right thing to do for Europe. The money side, as long as it's not costing customers, is a sort of secondary issue for us. This is about people in Normandy not having their lights turned off and looking out to Guernsey and seeing all the lights turned on.
Yeah.
It's that sort of working together piece.
And it's about relationships, even longer term than that, than just looking at us and seeing us all sitting here with our lights on. But presumably when contract negotiations come up again, this will put us in a good position to say, well, actually, we've done our bit where we can.
Yeah. You can't underestimate that good neighbour piece and the relationship that can be built around that. Quite clearly, France in particular, because of its nuclear maintenance programme, which we've been behind because of COVID. Yeah. They're struggling to catch up. They haven't got as much nuclear plant on at the moment as they'd ideally like. For us to assist in those circumstances goes a long way to building that relationship with EDF. And again, the French transmission operator as well. The fact that we can reduce some of our importation to allow them to better manage the demand in France, again, scores lots of points in terms of those future conversations around contracts.
Okay. The other message that came from Guernsey Electricity this week was asking us as individual consumers then to reduce our electricity usage. Now, why are we being asked to do that if there's not necessarily a problem with supply on island?
So this isn't a new thing, and for the whole of 2022 we've had our 9 to 5 campaign running. 9 to 5, we don't mean 9 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, we mean 9 in the evening to 5 in the morning. And this was very much around allowing everyone to understand that if you actually use electricity overnight, there's two good things that come out of that. One, it's a much lower electricity price, and therefore as a consumer you save money. But secondly, particularly in the winter months, it stops us from having to run more generation. If the more we can move electricity to overnight consumption, where we've got spare capacity in the cable, which comes from low carbon sources, the better it is for the consumer and the environment and for Guernsey Electricity. So it's a sort of win-win scenario for all of us. So we've had this campaign going for what we call 9 to 5. But this winter in particular, obviously with the energy crisis in Europe and the security crisis in Europe, if all of us can work together by making sure we switch the lights off, if we're going to put the dishwasher on, put it on later in the evening. We're not saying don't cook your dinner and don't turn your lights on and don't watch TV. Of course, do those things, but we're just saying let's use energy more wisely together. If you don't need to do it in those times and can shift it slightly out of those times, the better for everyone.
Because most people have kind of a cheaper tariff, don't they? I think off the top of my head, mine starts at 7:45 in the evening and goes to 5 a.m. or something. But everyone or different households across the island have different cheap times, don't they?
Yes, so we have our Economy 12 tariff.
Yeah, that's the one.
Basically allows you to have 2 hours in the daytime at a lower rate and also 10 hours overnight. And generally that starts anywhere from as you sort of say, 7:45.
Yeah.
A lot of people are sort of 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that sort of time scale. And again, as I say, roughly it's about half the price at those times. And if you can shift your consumption into those periods, it's good for you as well.
So it's things like the washing machine, the dishwasher. I'm guessing a lot of people now use slow cookers and things like that. So even those, you can set them on, can't you, kind of before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And then you've got your casserole ready. Obviously, just it will keep warm in the slow cooker until the morning.
Or even cooking during the daytime, up into the evening.
Yeah.
What that does, it just removes this, because it's for France, it's generally the 6 to 8 period in the evening, which for us is 5 till 7, and that's when we really want to say, if you could just move it out of that period, that'd be really good.
Okay, so as you said, just to recap, you're not expecting people to kind of get home from work, turn nothing on, sit in darkness, eating a cold salad or anything like that by candlelight. People can live their normal lives, but it's just those larger appliances that are maybe more expensive to run. Those are the ones that, just shift it to later in the evening.
Yep, I think there's the piece around, obviously it stops us generating on the island more generally. I think it's about cost saving as well. It's allowing us to optimise the use of overnight capacity if we can in the cable, which is low carbon capacity, and it's cheaper obviously as well. So I think it's all those things, but certainly we're not saying don't sit in the dark, don't eat cold tins of beans. We're after you having a normal life, but just think about how you use energy more wisely, and if possible, to try and move it outside of particularly that 5 to 7 period, or overnight from a sort of a cost perspective.
What about businesses? Is there anything businesses can do then? Again, I'm thinking of a lot of our offices, our office at Bailiwick Express, we're there during the day. We don't tend to be there during the evening, and that will be the same for lots of businesses across the island. So what should the people be doing when, if you're the last to leave the office at 5:30, say?
So, and I have said this to my own team here, when we leave at 5 o'clock, 5:30, we must make sure everything that can be turned off is turned off. All the screens, all the lights and everything. And we all know when we drive home, when we drive past different office blocks, you can see no one in there, but all the lights still on. Now, I understand that obviously there's cleaning activities that go on, but again, if we just think about how we sort of reduce the consumption in those sort of times. And again, this isn't about having the lights off all day and stumbling around a dark building. This is about just using electricity more wisely. Okay,
so everyone can play their part. I'm guessing government as well. Obviously, we've got some big government blocks, Frossard House, etc. We've got the finance houses, we've got shops, we've got news outlets as well as Guernsey Electricity. We just all really need to think a bit, don't we?
Yeah, I would say there's obviously the energy crisis at the moment, and we're doing it to sort of mutual support. But more generally, the best kilowatt hour is the kilowatt hour you don't use and don't pay for.
Yeah.
So I'd just say more generally, as we move through the sort of the cost of living crisis, just try and not use electricity if you can. It will save you money.
If we all save our employers money then in the electricity bills, would you say that they should be giving us all a pay rise at the end of the year?
I can't say that, but I think I think one of the things we're also mindful of is the maximum demand is what creates capital investment costs for us as a business, and the more we can make sure we manage demand, the less we have to spend, which then doesn't need to feed through to consumers' bills. So we're obviously looking at it from a long-term investment perspective as well. The better we can use the assets across the whole day, rather than just little points of the day, the less investment that's required, and then the less we need to put burden on the bills.
And back to the contract negotiations then with EDF, when are they next up for renegotiation?
So we've got a contract runs until 2027. We're currently in discussions, and the current plan is to try and conclude those discussions next year for the contract extension, if that's the way we want to go.
Okay, so back to actually, if we support Europe through the energy crisis, even as we said we're quite protected from it, it's really helping us out with those contract negotiations, because a bit of positivity between the nations always helps.
For sure. The relationship with EDF is very, very good. It's always been very, very good. We're a very trusted partner in terms of our power purchase agreement with them. We work quite openly with them, so I don't think there's an issue renegotiating the contract, but of course this definitely helps. It definitely helps the fact that we're willing to help out as well.